Hello builders, Mike Killen here from SellYourService.co.uk. So have you ever found yourself earning and charging higher prices for your projects but you still struggle to actually pay off the bills and you never seem to have any more money? That's because people seem to not understand the difference between recurring revenue, passive revenue and just plain revenue. I think there's a huge amount of horseshit out there, frankly, about passive revenue. And today I want to talk to you about some true forms of passive revenue and why they're not quite as attainable as everyone thinks they are. They still absolutely work. In fact, you might argue that passive revenue is the only true path to wealth and actual financial freedom. And I'm going to go through that with you. Here's what most people do. Okay, so we've got time along the bottom here. You might have already seen this because I talk about this model in my book From Single to Scale, and I also have done a video on it. We've got here is the level of income that we would charge, okay? And along the bottom here we've got time, and what tends to happen is we, as funnel builders, we have first of all individual revenue. So this is revenue that is generated once for a single project, and it essentially, there's no guarantee that it's going to happen again. So this might be an individual marketing funnel project, might be a consultation you run, a workshop, it might be some content you do for someone, whatever it is. And this is what it looks like, right? Is as time goes on, we start charging higher prices, okay? But the level of income that comes in between these gaps doesn't actually exist. The problem happens when our costs also go up, okay? So over time, our costs go up, and that's fine. And what ends up happening is actually the slice here above that kind of expense line. So these are our expenses. And if this green line is our income or revenue, this bit here above the expense line of the project profit actually gets smaller as our expenses go up. This is a really well-known phenomena in a lot of businesses, not just funnel businesses, but this, you should recognize this. You go, yeah, I'm charging higher prices, but I never seem to have any more goddamn money lying around. I never seem to have profit lying around. What's interesting though is your accountant considers pretty much all of this profit, and they're like, oh, you owe 20% of this to tax. And you're like, well, I don't have any money lying around. Why is that the case? And this is why. It's because revenue, while very, very fast to scale up, frankly, not generate regularly, scale up, and it can be very, very profitable. Typically, it doesn't work long term for businesses, and it's impossible to lead to growth because as time goes on, this expense line is always going to go up. And even if this expense line stabilizes and it flatlines, your revenue, because over time, yeah, you do get these larger projects and whatever, this profit margin here is so small, but also there's still an enormous gap in between here where you're not spending, where you're not making any money. You still need to spend money to keep this bit here. And we've looked at a lot of data around this. Typically, the kind of averaged out, people's revenue line is, if we look at kind of profit overall, is just below their expense line. That's a really common phenomena that we found. And so then we have recurring revenue, right? Now this is things like our maintenance plans. This is anything where work regularly comes in. The problem with recurring revenue is, while it absolutely is the foundation to growth for your funnel business, it becomes very, very difficult sometimes to break yourself out of the cycle of you still delivering it. If someone gave me $2,000 a month to go through their analytics, consult with them, meet with them 4 times a month, and tell them what they should do next, and they paid me $2,000 a month to do that, that is recurring revenue. The problem is it still relies on my time, however. It still relies on me turning up to do the work. But this example, I'm going to treat it as the most common form of recurring revenue, which is you doing the work. This is essentially a job. Okay, what you have there is a job. It's predictable, great, fantastic. There might even be contracts in place to say that you have to give, there has to be like a certain amount of warning before you can go off and do something else. There's also a level of security and predictability that comes with it. Maybe you're selling maintenance plans and you do the maintenance plans. That's fantastic, that's great. It's recurring revenue, it's predictable income. However, if you are still delivering it, there will still be a cap to what you can go through. To what you can deliver and what you can earn. So I want to share with you what happens with recurring income. First of all, it's going to be up here, right, all the time. Recurring income means that your level of income is flat. Now, as time goes on and expenses go up, eventually there's going to be a crossover point here where your regular income no longer is able to sustain your expenses. Around here, typically when you're right on the brink, that's when you find out the boiler needs replacing, when you need a new refrigerator or TV, right? Right at the brink, and you're like, why did this have to happen now? Here, awesome, fantastic, that's great, no problems at all. Here, problem, here, massive problem. Now, typically, if you've got some kind of recurring maintenance plan, and maybe you're like on a part-time contract, or you say you're working 10 hours a month for someone, or 10 hours a week with them, great. You're still going to have those little project spikes, right? However, if you're still delivering the work, it still is, in some respects, unprofitable, because there's still, even as your project prices go up and you become more confident and you begin to increase your prices, by the way, anyone watching this, just try doubling your prices today. Just think to yourself what would happen if you doubled your prices today. Anyway, yes, we're still above that line, fantastic. However, there is a cap to the amount of work you can do. Let's say that at this line, this takes you, I don't know, 10 hours a week. Okay, so that's 40 hours per month. But then develop another project, that means you're now pushing up to 80, or let's do it, 100 hours per month. Okay, there's going to be a cap to the amount of work you can earn, so therefore there's going to be a cap to actually the amount of money that you earn. Now this is recurring revenue, remember. At some point, these expenses are going to continue going up. Yeah, they might slow down, but they do keep going up. Just trust me on this one, all right? Your expenses will always keep going up. So this is a recurring revenue model where you are delivering the work. This is very dangerous because it means that if someone else comes along and says, hey, I also want to do 40 hours a month worth of work with you, can you do the same work you do for me? And you go, yeah, I guess so, okay. And so, awesome, it gets pushed up to here. And you still have these spikes, right? And for a while, things are really good. But then you're going to start hitting a serious burnout limit where these projects, and again, we've seen this happen, they end up flattening off. They end up reaching a peak far sooner than you would have done. So you end up charging less per project because you're spending so much time on this recurring revenue product, this recurring revenue level. Again, you're still above the line. That's fantastic, but there's a limit there. There is a limit, and at some point, this line is always going to keep rising. It's going to keep going. This is a fantastic way for you to be able to start growing your business and finding growth within your business. The problem though is that you have to remain profitable. You have to price profitably. I would rather take one project on that I knew was profitable as opposed to 10 which didn't really generate me any profit. The reason is because I want that profit to go into hiring somebody else. Now I'm going to circle back round to this in a bit because I now want to go over passive revenue. So passive revenue, truly passive revenue, is when you don't have to do anything and your money works for itself. Now, there are very few places where that truly happens. First of all, if you regularly put money away into a savings account, mutual funds, you invest in gold and all these kinds of things, Over 20 weeks, it's not going to make you any money. 20 months, not going to make you any money. 20 years, eventually it's going to start paying you back. The problem with passive revenue, and I mean truly passive revenue, because I'm going to talk about books and courses and stuff in a second. Truly passive revenue takes a long time for you to be able to see any returns whatsoever. It's literally kind of like this. And around here, we'll reach an apex where it'll start accelerating faster than you can put money away or even spend it. If you're just relying on passive revenue, your expenses are going to keep going up like that. You've got to find something to keep living. Everything under this line you've got to find, okay? So let's say that I put away 10% of everything I earn. Let's say I earn $100,000 a year, so that's $10,000 a year that I put away into my savings account, and I invest it into funds and stocks and shares. I personally don't have anyone managing it. Hold on. I personally don't have anyone managing it. I manage my own, but that's because I've learned a little bit about it. It didn't take that long. It was essentially How to Own the World by Andrew Craig, One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch, Mark Harris's The Next Big Investment Boom, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, Money by Rob Moore, and although I haven't read it, I've heard that Unshakable by Tony Robbins is also very good. So you learn to manage your money, right? And eventually, because of all the money you're putting away and the way that the market works, it'll start paying you back. And let's say it pays you 8% a year. 8% of 10 grand, not a lot. 8% of 100 grand, not a huge amount. But 8% compounded year on year over 20 years eventually will pay you out a lot more than you could ever work. And around this point in your life, when you don't want to be working a lot and it pays you out, you can quite comfortably live on a salary completely generated by passive revenue. This takes a long time to build out, and this is truly passive revenue. However, there are other methods of passive revenue, and I want to talk about that because there's also a difference between passive revenue and recurring revenue and passive recurring revenue. Two big differences. Passive revenue means that you physically don't do anything to deliver the thing that generates you income. Some examples might be you release a bunch of books on Amazon, they sell, the money comes into your account, done, right? Let's say rental. Let's say you have 5 or 6 properties, they rent out for £500 a month, costs you $400 to maintain them, you get 100 times 5, that's 600 a month, passive. The problem with both of those is that they still require a little bit of work. Even if you leverage yourself properly and you don't become the landlord, okay, so you get someone else to be the landlord, you get someone else to maintain it, you get someone else to do the rent, you just say to everyone, I'm going to give you 90%, I just want 10% back. There's still going to be management involved. At some point you're still going to have to get involved. And depending on how big a piece of the pie you want to keep, the more work that you'll have to do. What a lot of people do is when they first start at recurring revenue and passive revenue is they find that they actually want to try and do like 45 to 50% of the work to keep more of it. The problem is as we showed earlier, that literally caps the amount of time that you can invest in something. So I would rather only take 10% or less in some cases in order to 10%. In order to guarantee that I don't have to do any of the work. Passive revenue, if you're selling things like books and courses and stuff, kind of looks a little bit like this. Okay? Over time, it might grow, but there's actually no guarantee that that will happen. This is just a really quick. This is just a really quick example. If I'm selling something, a book or a course, and it gets sold and I don't have to do anything with it, then yeah, fantastic. The problem as well with this though, is that one, it's sporadic. Two, a lot of it requires an enormous amount of upfront investment. So your initial costs actually are increased and then they go up like this. Because this bit here, that's building the course, that's writing the book, that's doing all of this stuff. and then your expenses continue to go up afterwards. All right, even if you start really low, and if this line originally was going to start down here, you've got to invest up front in writing the book, creating the course, creating the product, whatever it is. There's also a problem when your support costs go up. So typically things like this, things like software, membership businesses, people think are passive. Fucking, I'd love to know when that happens, because I run 2 membership businesses, and they're sure as hell not passive. I love you guys. It's not on you, it's on me. It's the work I put on myself. Occasionally you're going to see these spikes like this in support costs. We do this with software as well. The software we release, in theory, shouldn't cost us anything, but it does, because we have to support it. We've got maintenance costs, we've got updates. People email us saying, hey, this is broken, how do I fix it? So over time, these kind of costs spike up. Now, I want to now talk about a recurring based passive revenue and why you need to start looking at that within your funnel business, and how it's actually not that hard. So all of these combined become actually a very, very powerful growth mechanism. So here's what we're going to do. This is time again. These are our expenses. I want you to run a quick exercise which says to yourself, how much do I need to live today? Plus 50% is my security. That's how much I want to earn in a year's time. Then 150% of that is my comfort level. That's how much I want to earn in 3 years' time. And then 300% of that is my what they call opulence level, and that's what I want to earn here. Okay. How much do you need to earn today? A month to live. $2,000. Cool. Plus 50%, so plus another $1,000. So 2,000. 50% of 2,000 is 1,000. So $3,000 per month in total. That's my security level. 150% of that is 6,000, is it 7,000, 7,000, something like that. That's going to be my comfort level, okay? And then opulence level is 300% of that, or 300% I think of your original one, which would then be 9,000. So $9,000 a month would be your opulence level. You're still going to have project-based income, which is those spikes, great. You're going to price them whereby you don't do any of the work. You don't do any of the work. Okay, so anytime you know that it's going to be 10 grand, most of that, so 3.3 thousand of it is going to go to your suppliers and things like this. 50% maybe goes to you. Read Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, another very good money book. You're also going to have a recurring revenue, which does this, and we're going to have our sporadic little passive income. Okay, so we're going to have all of that, but we're going to combine it. We're going to have our $25,000 or $10,000, say 25 grand projects. Even if they only come in once a quarter, great, not a problem. We're then going to move every single person onto some kind of care and maintenance plan which you don't deliver. I want you to think about what it is that you should be delivering to your customers for $100, $497, and $997. $100 is maybe their hosting, maintenance, updates, and you know that, I don't know, actually no, let's change that, it's $200. That you know that $80 of which, or whatever, $100 of which goes to some kind of maintenance company to take care of that for you. That means that every time you have a new project, you can sell them a new maintenance plan. I'm not going to get into how we sell that first, but that's how I'm going to run. There's also a 497, which comes with maybe a couple of blog posts, a little bit of SEO work. Again, just think about what would you deliver, and then a third of that roughly, so let's say 130, maybe slightly more than that, let's say 150, yeah, 100, no, but 100, 175 for the sake of posterity, right? $175, what can you buy for $175 that you can resell at $497? And then similarly, what can you do for $350? And maybe this one comes with 4 blog posts a week or whatever. As you get your first project, okay, we got this spike here, they are going to be moved onto one of these here, which is instantly going to bump you up a level. And then the next time you make a sale, you're going to move someone onto another one, like that. And can you see how this bar is slowly increasing over time? And it keeps this profit level above this red line. And it might be that these projects here, you actually sell to people anyway. And you know, people buy them anyway. And you don't even have to do a major project. And then as that continues to scale, and then you have another one, okay? Now around this point you think, well, let's have some passive revenue products. Let's have some courses, and I've got a few books and some speaking gigs and things that just come up and I can record. You should be recording what you're doing anyway, your consultations, your workshops, and packaging them up. I'll talk about that in another video. And so that provides those little kind of scalable, sporadic things, but continuing with a big project. And then over time, like I said, we actually end up, you know, finding more of these passive revenue companies. First of all, this scales a lot faster. Like I said, this does flatten off eventually, and in fact, I'm being really conservative there because you should be well above this line, kind of by this level here. It might be that actually the first one comes in, and then you have another project, and another project, and another project. And if you follow my niching method as well, you'll find that, you know, you'll actually get there a lot faster. That there, combined with the fact that you take 10% of whatever you earn and put it away in mutual funds and stocks and shares and saving accounts and things like this, eventually pays more back into you in wealth than you could ever deal with. The beautiful thing about this model is it's actually not that complicated. It's really not. You got one product and you say, we just sell this for $25,000, okay? That's all we do. We don't do any of the low level stuff. You have 3 recurring revenue products. This one here, you can set up today. You could use GoWP, for example, and they will take care of all of your maintenance problems. This one here, you could use with Speedline. So maybe this one here comes with, like, you know, a little bit of consultation. You just hire a coach and talk someone through how to coach them. You can set these products up right now and not have to build anything, not have to invest anything. And these kind of passive revenue ones that are more sporadic, start looking at the processes you go through and the content that you're creating and think about a way to be able to build this into your products and services. Thanks very much, guys, for watching to the end of the video. I know that was quite a long one, almost 25 minutes, so I apologize for that. If there's any below, how do you feel about brand new passive revenue and recurring revenue based projects? How do you feel about kind of this model? Does that clear things up for you? What is it that you're going to start offering to your customers for your project revenue, passive revenue, and recurring revenue based income? I am Mike from Sell Your Service. I'll leave a couple of videos either side of my head here. In the meantime, guys, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you coming to the end of the video. If there's anything you'd like me to talk about, let me know in the comments below. I'll speak to you later. Keep building those funnels.